Look, again, I can talk for hours. That's absolutely not a problem. But what I'm going to try to do, and this is what I always try to do, is to deliver value overload, customer value overload. So to share as much useful data as possible. I have a long presentation. I'm not going to go through all of it, but I'm just going to go through a few points that might be interesting to the people. It doesn't matter whether you are starting out or you're already doing business, whether you're selling on Amazon or you have your own Shopify store or you're selling in retail. This all entails sourcing. And if you're doing sourcing the wrong way, you can be losing a lot of money in the process. So let me quickly share my tiny little presentation for hundreds of pages, which I'm not going to cover all for sure, yet again. So just to tell you a little bit about what we've done as humans, as a company. I've been in sourcing for the last 18 years. I actually come from the border with China. I come originally from Russia, so it's Russia, river, China, 300 meters, and I would go over the river, I go to China. First time I came to China was in 1993. I moved there in 2005. I spent there almost 10 years, then Singapore, then Europe. So I lived in China for a very long time, and this is where the sourcing started. To show you what we've done over the years, sourced over 3,000 products, saved a lot of money, and all of our actually employees are female. So we're a team of almost 50, and it's only women except my poor husband. International Women's Day is not a good day for him. So, but International Men's Day, which we have in Germany, is. We have a lot of customers, a lot of people trust us. I give you a wonderful example. One of our customers is actually Amazon. So we do product sourcing for Amazon, not for all of their products, but for a lot of them. One of the things that we like to talk about in general with people when they come to us just to consult, even without using our services, is how to actually make money when you're purchasing the products and not only selling the products. Ladies, later on throughout the day, they will be actually talking about how to save money with the inventory, with the good systems and all of those things. But we need to remember that initially, your initial investment, if you're purchasing a bad product, if you're paying a bad price for that product, if you're having the wrong import tax, wrong shipping costs, and all of those things, you already are having a bad start, and your margins might be eaten up by all of those things where you don't really know the processes. So this is why we say how real money is actually made in purchasing, because you can increase your margins from 5 to 50%, depending on your product, depending on your skills, and your wits as well. So again, how to save 500K in 3 hours of work. I'll quickly share that information. For those of you who have been selling on Amazon already and been for a while around this particular topic of Amazon, would know the jokes around the garlic press, right? Because when garlic press came up, it came up as a kind of a sample purchase product which a person started selling ages ago, I think 2013 or something like this. And then it became kind of a running joke within the Amazon community. Me and my husband, myself, we are sellers on Amazon as well since 2014. I'm giving you this example of a garlic press. This is not the actual product that we did for one of our customers, but I can show you examples of how costs can be optimized. It doesn't matter if you're making $10,000 per month, 100, a million, or 10 million. You can still have additional margins that you can potentially take, reinvest into marketing, reinvest into purchasing product, into optimization. So this product, let's say it was a garlic press. The customer had a landed cost of $5. For those who don't know what the landed cost is, we're taking the product price, we're taking the shipping costs, the VATs, the import taxes, so everything that you need in order to get kind of the product on the ground in the country where you're going to sell it. Some people also add 3PL costs if you're not using Amazon, but I usually don't. So landed cost includes all of this. So our customer had a price or a purchasing cost, a landed cost of $5. What we did is we started looking at some other countries other than China and seeing if there are potential for a hybrid supply chain. Hybrid supply chain is something that everyone starts to talk about due to some instabilities in the, in the policies, in the politics across the globe. There are problems between China and US, there are problems between Russia and everyone else, etc., etc. So it's just smart to have a hybrid supply chain. So a lot of people, like this particular customer, they started off buying in China. Currently, they're buying in China and they're also buying in Mexico. So let's say the garlic press, right? So what is good to do is always try to find other manufacturers in other countries and preferably in other regions. Why? Because your supply chain in this case will be a lot safer. And if something goes belly up, another corona happens, another war happens, God forbid, or something like this, you will have some factories closed in one country, but hopefully you will still have your supply coming in from another country. It is also extremely important, and I think that there are a lot of ladies who are more qualified than me to talk about this, on how you price your products as well. So, for example, our customer sells this garlic press on his own website for 38 bucks. Now they also sell it on Amazon for 38 bucks, when all of the competitors sell it for 10 or $12, the same exact product. Why? Because they're able to say it's made in Mexico, they have better photos, better descriptions, etc., etc., etc. So also extremely important point. So with this particular customer, he made additional $500,000 in revenue last year. Why? Because he saved $1 and his purchases of this particular products were 500,000 pieces. So $500,000 he saved. And the work that was integrated into this initial was about 3 hours or something like this. So look at the options that are available. A lot of people are looking and saying, oh, China, I only know China, so I only will go to China. There is nothing else out there. This is not the way to go. One of the important things when you're going abroad is to make sure that the country is not only able to produce your product, but to also look at the political situation in the said country, right? So Turkey, for example, has its pros and its cons. It's good to go there because of lira devaluation against the dollar, but it's not so good because they will have increases in the salaries in labor, right? So the cost kind of, you don't know, does this even out? Is it worse going there? And also, it's extremely important to look at the political situation in general. If someone were to ask me right now, is it worth going to Turkey? So should I still go there? I would say in the next year, it's still an awesome opportunity. But after that, it will become harder and harder because a lot of people are fleeing from China to Turkey. So of course, they're increasing the prices. So this is extremely important. Look at the political situation, look at the inflation, look at the investments that come from the government towards the manufacturing and other sectors. It will literally take you 5 minutes of Googling and you will understand, is it worth going to this country or not? One of the things that I would like to share directly are some tips or some hacks. So these are the hacks that are very useful for anyone who pretty much starts the sourcing or is already sourcing the products out there. One of the biggest problems we face is the amount of manufacturers people are contacting. It is never enough. I really don't understand why people contact 3 or 4 or 5 manufacturers. Is it because they're afraid? Is it because they're lazy? Is it because they think it's enough? I don't know, but the point being is you should not contact 3 or 4 or 5 or 10 manufacturers. It should be a lot more, and preferably in different countries. How to identify those countries where you can source your product? Again, first thought for everyone is let's go to China and let's source the product there. If you don't want to, for example, you're a seller who sells, let's say in the United States of America, and you would like to manufacture some wooden products that do not come from China. The easy question would be, what options do you have in terms of manufacturing wooden products that don't come from China? If you don't want to hire a sourcing company, sourcing agents, and anything like this, use Google. Literally, for things like this, you can write one of the things, like you can type in top manufacturers of wooden products in the world. It's as easy as that. Top exporters of wood in the world. Countries like Russia, of course, are going to pop up. You got Russia, you got India, you got Brazil, you got Canada. You have quite a few countries where you can go and manufacture wooden products, right? So you identify the country. For example, let's say you decided to go with Canada for whatever reason, because it's so close, etc., etc. What are the next steps? The next steps would be actually to try and find the manufacturers. How do you find manufacturers in China? You use Alibaba, you use 1688, you use, I don't know, Baidu, which is their search engine, so like Google, right? What else do you do? Maybe you have your contact, someone, some references or something like this. But what do you do when you actually have to do the sourcing outside of China? How do you find manufacturers? This is the biggest problem that most of the people are facing. You identify the country. Again, one of the first things you actually need to do is Google. Google, you need to go to YouTube, you need to go to Instagram, Facebook, any other social media. Why? Because when manufacturers are attending different types of trade shows, they always make posts, right? Oh, here, I'm at this trade show, come visit my booth, etc. But things like this. So this is extremely helpful. And you can find manufacturers who you might not even find on Google. Secondly, try to see if this particular country has any trade shows. I give an example of a trade show in Mexico. We have Evo Latam that Amy is related to as being one of the organizers. So you can go to a trade show you can find a trade show in that particular country and actually visit the trade show. If it is not coming up anytime soon, what you can do is you can go online and see the list of exhibitors for the previous year, right? So let's say the trade show took place in November 22 in Canada about wood manufacturers, suppliers, and all of those guys. So you go, you find the trade show, you can literally type in trade shows, exhibits, probably in French as well, because this is Canada, wooden products, things like this. The websites will pop up, you go in there and you see who were on the list, who were the exhibitors, because the exhibitor list is usually always there. And not usually only the exhibitor list, but even contact information for those exhibitors. So this is one of the great ways to actually find manufacturers in other countries. You want toys, you can go to Germany. You want textiles, there are tons of trade shows that you can visit online in Indonesia, in India, Bangladesh, Vietnam. So this is an extremely wonderful way. So let's say we found our manufacturer, or we found a few. Our suggestion is to get in touch with about 30 to 60 different potential manufacturers, so you can have a very good widespread quotation variety. Because you can have some guys, let's say at $5, others will be at 20, right? So you need to see what is the realistic price on the market. Why is it so? What is the difference? Is it the material? Is it the way the product is produced? So you will need to talk to the manufacturer in extremely close way to find out all of those things. If you have an existing database, of course, contact the manufacturers from there, but do not stop there. I don't care how good your existing supplier is. You always need to shop around. Always, especially when it comes to manufacturing, because you need to make sure you have a backup. He can be perfect, best prices, best product, all certifications. He even gives you credit terms, right? So you pay like 60 days after the goods arrive that you already sold them. But what if something happens to them and your oxygen supply is basically cut off? So please always try to have a backup. Not only find them and get prices, but order samples and maybe even order a small mass production batch. Use social media to your advantage. This is in regards to searching for manufacturers, but this is also in regards to your negotiation skills and to negotiating the prices with your suppliers. This is specifically for outside of China. For depending on which languages you speak and if you can use Google Translate. What we usually do is we, I don't want to say stalk, like stalking people. I really don't want to say that, but we research people. They're not your opponents, right? So you made contact with the manufacturer. They started give you initial pricing. It looks like everything is going the way it's supposed to go, but you always need to have, something, a bonus, right? That will get you even higher on the top of that mountain and get you a better deal. What we do is we usually try to research the person we're communicating with. Let's call them an account manager on social media. We try to research the person and their personal life. Why? Because we want to connect on that private, on that personal level, because we are humans. If we're talking to someone who is into, so if you talk to me about riding motorcycles, you're my kind of person because I ride motorcycles or going hiking or going on trips or reading a book, right? You can grab my attention a lot better and you can hold that attention for a longer time and make you like me and the other way around, and try to get a better deal out for yourself. So research your opponent, research the factories that you're talking to, who is their boss, who are they, what do they like to do, and make a personal connection and try to be really genuine, because you're communicating with the person. I'm not saying be friends, but be good acquaintances and maybe have that real connection, because we as humans are more likely to give and do a favor for someone who we know rather than not. Next one. Again, this is for anything outside of China. In China, easy, Alibaba, one call, you can have the prices. And then a few days later, you realize they gave the wrong price for the wrong product and the price is wrong and they can't produce and they don't have certification. But that aside, if you're doing sourcing, if you're trying to find manufacturers outside of China, the normal chain on events is 3 emails and 4 phone calls to get the final prices for the products that you actually want. So if you're trying to actually get in touch with someone and you sent 1 email and you didn't receive a response within 2 weeks, please don't cry wolf. It's just not, you need to do more work. That is unfortunate. A lot of people who are trying to find manufacturers, and especially big sellers, they feel like, I'm making millions. This person should be rolling out a red carpet in front of me, and they are not even answering my calls, right? Right now, the demand for manufacturing products is a lot higher than the supply that is on the market for a lot of products in a lot of countries. So you need to be patient. And again, you need to be human and make that connection. Don't be high up, don't show yourself as a higher up or anything like this. Again, we're all human. So normally 3 emails and 4 phone calls, that is the average for US, for Europe, especially for developed countries. They tend to be less hungry in comparison to Asian countries who want to make a lot of money fast and buy all the Louis Vuitton and Gucci and Versace bags and belts. One of the things to note is not to contact aimlessly. Make sure you have as many details for your products and for what you actually want before contacting the potential manufacturers. It doesn't matter where they're located. Put yourself in the position of the actual manufacturers. Someone comes to you and says, I want to buy a glass. Maybe will be made out of plastic or glass, and it might be black or purple, and it might be looking like a wine glass or an IKEA glass or so. When someone comes to you with such a request, you're like, nope, this is way too much trouble. The person doesn't know what he or she wants. This is going to be a waste of time because I'm going to spend so much time talking to them. They're going to order 5 samples and then they're not going to order anything at all. So understanding this, when you're going to manufacturers, try to have as much data as possible. I understand that sometimes it's hard to collect this data, especially when you're creating your own product, but Google around, look around, get inspiration. It doesn't mean that you're committing to those things that you will be initially given to the manufacturers. But the more shape of the product you have, the easier it will be for them to be in touch with you, to communicate with you, and to actually they will be willing to provide you prices. Because if you contact aimlessly and you don't have details, they won't communicate with you. We had situations like this where people who had businesses and they made about $60 million per year, and they hired some sourcing people, and this is what they were doing. I don't know what I want, but I want this. And the manufacturers didn't care how much money they were making because they were afraid they're going to waste time. Make use of freelancers. I'm not a freelancer anymore, not for many years. I used to be a digital nomad in Southeast Asia. But make use of freelancers. There or different services. There is such things as Upwork or Fiverr, and you can find people to help you, for example, translate. We know if you go to do sourcing in Mexico, you kind of need to speak Spanish. And the same goes for Poland or for France. If you come there and you start speaking English, they can, but they will not. This is I'm a proud Polish person. I'm a proud French person. At least this is what we've noticed with the factories. You can easily hire a freelancer who can be a translator for you for half an hour to have a face-to-face discussion and a meeting with the factory. Because those meetings, even through Zoom, in China it's called guanxi, right? When you're making the connections, when you're becoming acquaintances, kind of close buddies, I will finish you. All right. So make use of freelancers. I did that. Contact data. What does that mean? That means make sure that you have contact data for the company, and not only for the person you're communicating with, but for other people within the company as well. This especially is important when you're trying to do sourcing in Asia. The turnover of the staff in Vietnam, China, Indonesia, Malaysia, India, Bangladesh is quite substantial. So when the person leaves, you got no contact data. Everything you've been working for is lost. So make sure you also have a contact data for someone else in the company. Confirm, talk to that person, say, hey, just in case. Prepared, things will go wrong. Anyone who did sourcing before, absolutely. We have so many situations where a person started and everything was perfect, and then 2 weeks later they come crying, oh my God, everything went wrong. So prepare, everything might go wrong, something definitely will go wrong, but it doesn't mean you should stop. It means you should continue, power through, because those who do, those are the ones who start selling, making money, become independent, etc., etc. When it comes to manufacturers, this is what I mentioned about being on a high horse, red carpet, and all of those things. Don't threaten your manufacturers. When someone threatens you, how do you feel? You want to kick their tushy, and you never, I don't know, you want to take care of those people and to get them the hell out of your life. So the same thing goes for the manufacturers. So please be nice. Again, there is a human on the other side. QC, quality control, quality inspection, QI, samples for mass production, but not only. You can also get samples for, let's call it, for in between the start and the end of the mass production. You can always find someone to send person to the factory And when they started producing the product, you can ask them to take a look, how is it coming out? Because if they will see some mistakes along the way, you can directly correct them, right? And this is not so expensive. Again, you can find freelancers to do this. The undercover hack is something that I really, really like and something that we use. That means when you are searching for the factory, and for example, you don't have a large team and you're searching for the manufacturers yourself, or you have your team and they're searching for the manufacturers, they and you never should admit that you're in charge of making the final decisions. You always need to pretend that there is someone above you who needs to make that final decision, that there is always this boss above you. Why? The person on the other side also has a boss, and this person is more likely to try and connect with you if they feel you're in the same situation, in the same position. You can always say, please, oh my god, please help me. I'm so afraid I'm gonna lose my job. I just, just this tiny negotiation, this 5 cents, this might save my job. Please, can you please help me this time? And I will make sure in the future, I don't know, we place more orders with you, or please help me. Right? So you can, if you have any theatrical blood in your veins or anything like this, test this out, because again, humans respond on such a level. I want to quickly show you. There was a question from a person. A person in the chat was asking, are there any platforms other than Alibaba in other countries? For Germany, you can use wlw.de. For Europe in general, you can use Europages, but again, there are tons of Chinese manufacturers on there. You don't really have anything like this for Vietnam, Malaysia, Indonesia, or other countries. But those manufacturers, a lot of manufacturers from other Southeast Asian countries, they will be on Alibaba. But you need to verify the factories properly, look at their registration, certification, and all of those things. For US, you can use ThomasNet. ThomasNet is good. Other than this, there are not so many. There are some platforms that are trying to be the next Alibaba in Europe, but it's going to be extremely hard on them. What I want to share, and maybe people want to take a screenshot or anything like this, or they can actually, I'll show my email, they can send an email and ask for us to send them the presentation. So here are the products that you can actually source and manufacture in LATAM, in Latin America. So household, wood, textiles, chemicals, art supply, cosmetics, plastics, packaging, tons of things, right? So remember this. What else can you manufacture in LATAM? Furniture, shoes, drinks, cotton. And one of my favorite is alpaca cotton. This is very rare. Wines, beers, agricultural products. So literally tons of things that you can sell on Amazon. Jewelry. What can you produce in, or what can you source in Europe and in America? Again, household, food, supplements, pets, health products, very easy, tons of private label, especially the pets, and in general, supplements are on the rise. Chemicals, textiles, glass, tons of things. So this is Europe and US. Here are some more examples of specific countries across the globe. You got Poland here, Turkey, India, Pakistan, right? So you guys can take a look and see if there is anything, any of your products go into those categories. Again, these are not the final categories. These are not all of the products that you can do in those countries, but this is a very, very good choice. I have a very limited amount of time, so you can see the presentation is actually quite long, and there's tons of useful data for you there. So if you guys want, you can send us an email to hello@zignify.net, and you can request the presentation. And we promise we're not going to try to sell you anything. If you want to talk to us, we'll consult you. But in general, for presentation, you can come and I'll share the information. We're interested in customer value overload. Why? Because this is something that you should be interested in. Because if you're delivering customer value overload to your customers, you're doing your job, you're having great sales, and hopefully you have amazing margins as well. So I think I will stop on this point. There's again tons of information, and we can sit here for hours. But unfortunately, I'm not allowed to speak for hours.